You're watching Netrush Report, your home for tennis drama, rivalries, and the stories that define champions. Let's dive right in. The tennis world is on fire again, and this time, the spark came from one simple sentence. Carlos Alcaraz should be careful if he wants to beat Jannik Sinner again. Those were the words of Adriano Panatta, the 75-year-old former Italian Grand Slam champion, and they've triggered a social media storm. Because if there's one thing fans don't like, it's a legend doubting the hunger of a 22-year-old who's redefining modern tennis. But before we get into the backlash, let's rewind a bit. Because the Carlos Alcaraz versus Jannik Sinner rivalry has turned into one of the defining stories of men's tennis today. Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner are, without question, the faces of this new generation. Between them, they've collected nearly everything worth having: Grand Slams, Masters 1000 titles, and the global spotlight that used to belong exclusively to Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, and Roger Federer. This rivalry isn't about ego or trash talk. It's about levels. Pure, blistering, next-generation tennis that's rewriting what's possible from the baseline. And while the two share mutual respect, there's no denying that each time they meet, the intensity feels personal. Every shot carries extra weight. Every rally feels like a statement. For the most part, the 2025 season has belonged to Carlos Alcaraz, who captured 8 titles, including the French Open and the US Open, conquering clay and hard courts with equal brilliance. But even for a champion like Alcaraz, tennis is never without its stumbles. Everything seemed set for another deep run, until Paris happened in a shocking twist. Cameron Norrie, a player who hadn't beaten Alcaraz in over 2 years, handed him an early round exit. The match ended with Alcaraz visibly frustrated, his rhythm broken, his movement unusually hesitant, and it didn't take long for critics to start circling. Among them was Adriano Panatta, a name that commands respect in Italy. A former French Open champion himself, Panatta knows what it means to be a clay court warrior. But his latest comment about Alcaraz struck a nerve. Speaking to Tennis World Italia, Panatta said, "Carlos must be careful. Sinner has evolved. He's calmer, stronger, and more consistent. Alcaraz can't rely only on power anymore. He must adapt if he wants to beat Jannik again." It might have sounded like fair advice on paper, but to fans, it read differently. As an unnecessary warning to a player who's already proven his dominance. The internet didn't hold back. Within hours of Panatta's comments, social media flooded with responses, many of them fiercely defending Alcaraz. One fan wrote on X, formerly Twitter, "These idiotic takes are ruining my day. Alcaraz literally beat Sinner at the US Open. What is he supposed to be careful about?" Another posted, "Panatta sounds like he's trying to protect Sinner. Both are great, but Alcaraz doesn't need warnings. He needs competition." And yet another tennis follower added, "If we're warning anyone, it should be Sinner. Carlos has more weapons, more variety, and more Grand Slams." It wasn't just about defending Alcaraz. It was about standing up for a new generation that's earned its respect through performance, not legacy talk. Despite his early exit in Paris, the Spaniard's 2025 campaign has been nothing short of historic. He's reached 10 finals, winning 8 titles, including 2 Grand Slams. His court coverage remains unmatched, his drop shots surgical, and his ability to turn defense into attack. Pure artistry in many ways. Alcaraz has done what few before him could. Make tennis feel electric again. From the clay of Roland Garros to the roaring crowds of New York, his energy has redefined what fans expect from a champion. And yet, as dominant as he's been, his rivalry with Jannik Sinner is the one storyline that keeps everyone glued. For every Alcaraz highlight reel, there's a Sinner counterpunch. The Italian star's 2025 has been equally remarkable. After working relentlessly on his serve and mental composure, he's become a near-impossible opponent to crack. His consistency has evolved into his biggest weapon. In Paris, he was flawless. Cool under pressure, surgical from the baseline, and utterly confident. His title win there not only capped off an incredible run, but also earned him the world #1 ranking, a title that had been Alcaraz's for most of the season. And that's where Panatta's comment came from, a belief that Sinner's evolution might now pose a genuine threat to Alcaraz's reign. When Alcaraz lifted the US Open trophy earlier this year after defeating Sinner in a high-stakes final, He stood atop the tennis world again. It was his moment of redemption, the proof that his game, style, and heart still made him the man to beat. But in tennis, momentum is a fragile thing. Just 2 months later, Sinner's Paris triumph swung the rankings. Alcaraz's short-lived reign ended as Sinner claimed the top spot, officially becoming the world number one. That the symbolism couldn't be ignored. The student now matching, and perhaps surpassing, the master of their generation. What makes the Alcaraz-Sinner dynamic so fascinating isn't just their skill level. It's their contrast. Alcaraz plays with wild energy, fist pumps, roar after big points, a smile that lights up arenas. Sinner, meanwhile, is the embodiment of control, calm, unreadable, and relentlessly efficient. Together, they represent the perfect duality of tennis, fire and ice. And while both players have repeatedly praised each other, Alcaraz calling Sinner one of the hardest players I've ever faced, and Sinner admitting that Carlos forces me to improve every day. It's clear that underneath the mutual admiration lies an unspoken drive to outdo the other. That's why Panatta's "be careful" warning rubbed fans the wrong way. To them, it sounded like a relic of the past, as if a modern rivalry built on balance and brilliance needed paternal advice from an era gone. But if there's one thing tennis fans are united about, it's this: rivalry should be settled between the lines, not in interviews. And that's exactly what makes the upcoming ATP Tour Finals so thrilling. Both Alcaraz and Sinner will be there. Both hungry, both in peak form, and both chasing the ultimate year-end statement. For Alcaraz, it's a chance to reclaim what was his, the world number one spot. For Sinner, it's the opportunity to prove that his rise wasn't a moment, but the beginning of an era. Their head-to-head record continues to swing back and forth, reflecting just how evenly matched they are. Each brings a distinct strength. Alcaraz's explosive creativity versus Sinner's machine-like consistency. Statistically, they've split their last several meetings, each improving in areas that used to be weaknesses. Alcaraz has refined his shot selection. Sinner has added power and emotional control. That it's a battle of evolution. Two players pushing each other to new levels every time they share a court. That, let's be clear, Adriano Panatta isn't a villain here. He's a legend who's seen generations come and go, and he speaks from experience. But tennis has changed. Today's players don't just rely on power or serve. They're part athlete, part artist. And when someone as dynamic as Carlos Alcaraz gets told to be careful, fans interpret it as doubt. In truth, Alcaraz thrives on challenges like this. Every critic, every warning, every setback becomes fuel. And if history tells us anything, it's that you never want to underestimate a motivated Carlos Alcaraz. The tennis world now waits for their next clash. The stakes couldn't be higher. The world number one ranking, the year-end title, and the psychological edge heading into 2026. Sinner's fans believe this is his time, that his calm demeanor and precise game have finally reached perfection. Alcaraz's fans, on the other hand, see a champion ready to strike back harder than ever. Either way, the ATP Finals are shaping up to be one of the most electrifying showdowns of the year. The truth is, Adriano Panatta wasn't entirely wrong. Sinner has evolved, but so has Alcaraz. Both young men are redefining what tennis can be: faster, more physical, more emotionally charged. And when they meet next, it won't be about warnings or words. It'll be about who adapts better, who plays freer, and who dares to go further. Because in the end, greatness doesn't come from caution. It comes from courage. That you've been watching Netrush Report, your home for tennis rivalries, emotional comebacks, and the stories that define champions. Stay tuned, because the next Alcaraz-Sinner battle might just rewrite tennis history once again.